Yeah, so hi Felix, I'm glad to see you today. My name is Deanie Grigar. I'm the co-PI for this Future Text project in XR, and I'm on the West Coast Vancouver, Washington, right above the river of across from Portland, Oregon. I'm the director of the Creative Media and Digital Culture program here at Washington State, and I am the director of the Electronic Literature Lab. And I've been coming to this for a couple of years now.
Very nice to meet you.
Yeah.
I'm actually in Kirkland, Washington, so we're pretty close.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Wow. So I'm sorry, who do you work for?
Meta.
Oh, you work for
There's
Meta.
the Reality Labs division. There's quite a bunch of people up in Seattle.
Well, I have to say that I'm a big fan of VR fitness. Supernatural is my thing. I kickbox. Thank you for
Nice.
that.
Yeah.
And I'm a Beat Saber freak, so whatever.
Beat Saber expert, I think the terminology is.
I'm actually an expert now. I'm pretty good. Daft Punk is my thing.
Oh, really? That's good. That's good. Yeah, actually, Felix, I think you should go last in case someone else joins, because that's really good as a pre-intro. On my screen, I'm actually next to Dini, being co-PI. That's cool. I'm a little bit obsessive about text, and I've been writing a little bit of a report on halfway through, like Fabian did a demo that we put together. And so trying to look at issues and questions. And it's really, really interesting mentally. And I wish Brandel was here already because Brandel was the one who came into our community. Brandel's at Apple, Felix. I'm sure you may be familiar with him. Brandel Zakarnuk, I don't know. And writing about the challenges of XR, a lot of it, I then compare it to working in a traditional display, which has been really fascinating to just look back at the constraints we had and to compare it with the opportunities now, which is both challenging and positive. So yeah, that's what I have to say for today, mostly. Ashkant, you are to my right.
Hi Felix, you might remember me from the WebEx hackathon in Seattle. That was a really fun event, and where I got to meet Felix in person as well. And since then, yeah, I've been working with different kinds of companies, both remotely and in person, currently in India. And yeah, my main interests are just developing different kinds of XR experiences, and like more and more, I'm thinking that WebXR offers this perfect cross-platform compatibility. And yeah, I see what Meta is doing with WebXR and the store support, and it really is a great time to be developing in WebXR. So nice to meet you, Felix.
Thank you, Ashkant. And then we'll jump to Jim.
Yeah. Jim Strayhorn from Menlo Park, California, in Silicon Valley. I was trained as an architect but never practiced. I'm a kind of design thinker who feels very strongly about text that what's important should be visually self-evident. That's all I need to say.
Well, that was succinct. Fabian, we're going to skip you till the end as well. And we'll start with alphabetically Peter Demetrius. Hi.
Hey, I'm kind of a lurker. Been coming in from the Ward County M's Federated Wiki project, looking at his next turn on his invention of the wiki, and got sucked into here trying to think about. I'm largely looking about AR, VR kind of things to do with text and what's going to mutate into. Long time IBM employee, so I've got a lot of that background and deal a lot with AI stuff and whatnot at my day job. Anyways, great to be here.
Yeah, you've been here for quite a while, but quiet, so it's like a really stealthy entry, so that's nice. Peter Wazilko from New York.
Okay, I'm an attorney programmer hybrid, an independent scholar. I came here via the Tinderbox community and the ACM hypertext community. Um, really, really interested in end-user programming, human-computer interaction topics. Also, outside of the technical sphere, I'm very interested in world's fairs and expositions, urban planning, cities of the future, that sort of thing. And so I'm really, really widely read, and I vault across disciplinary lines frequently.
Yeah, and you have been here, let me check my clock, forever, which is very nice.
It's been a privilege.
Thank you, Peter. Very happy to have you. Rob.
Okay, I just got here. I'm a writer. That's all I can say. I'm interested in text because I write.
I always have to jump in with Rob.
Yeah, he does.
Say more because he's just too damn, what's the word? Modest.
That's the word.
Rob is a long developer, pioneer in the field. Developed one of the first really cool games called Portal in 1986, published by EA, which I adore. Looks great on Amiga, which I've seen. He has published a lot of Born Digital literature, as well as 16 books, 1,000 books, print books, 1 million of them. Anyway, long-time friend and a wonderful colleague. So there's Rob.
Okay, thank you, Deanie. You do better at introducing me than I do.
It is actually nice, Rob, to highlight that you are a writer. That's why you're interested in text, because most writers aren't in that way.
Yeah.
I posted on the Slack channel, I think there was a TikTok video on screws. And I think it's longer than 2 or 3 minutes, going into different types of screws and when you should use them and what they do. It was so fascinating because from my background as a photographer, the lens, the camera, blah, blah, you want to learn the tools. And as a tradesperson, you use the right hammer, you use the right screwdriver. But for knowledge professionals, it's usually Google Docs and Microsoft Word and you're done or something like that. So having your enthusiasm and curiosity is quite wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. It's been a pleasure for the last couple of years.
Oh, what about the performance? No, I'm just kidding. Fabian, let's go to you and then Felix, and then we're almost ready to start.
Yes, hi everyone. So my name is Fabien Benetou, based in Brussels, Belgium, where I'm back at the moment. I'm a WebXR prototypist, so I don't make real software, just little bits of code here and there to try new ideas. At least that's the hope. And my motivation for being here is because I'm convinced that those fancy headsets, which are not that fancy anymore, they're basically a new way to play with information, including text, including code, instructions on how to build everything and learn anything. So yeah, I think that's here is one place to explore that, and through the different prototypes, seeing if those ideas are too grandiose or if actually it is legitimately a new medium. So yeah, thank you all for having me here. Thanks, Felix, for coming. I also put very pragmatically in the chat one of the prototype made or built on Felix's work, which is basically like I won't dig too much into it because of course you will introduce it to the work, but how to do VR without VR headset, because I think the crazier we go, the better our safety net should be. And if we can have like such ways to test and keep on sharing the test and sharing the bits that make the test, I think we can really try the mad stuff, which is, to be honest, what I'm into, because the usual stuff, yeah, I mean, we tried. So yeah, that's why I'm here and that's why I'm chatting with you all.
Thank you, Fabian. And that serves as the beginning introduction for Felix. So do you have anything else you want to say about Felix before we move into that part of the day?
That he will, I think, state it, but he's not there on a Meta official, how do you say, speaking for Meta, but speaking for himself. And I think this has to be on the record. So I think that was the important legal bit, but he'll do that better. So
he's He's not here for meta, but he is a metaphor for meta. Good. All right.
Yes, we have a lot of that. We have a lot of that in this group. So
Yeah.
we have when Brandel speaks, he doesn't speak for Apple.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So Felix, I'm going to let you introduce yourself in a second. I just brought two books as a kind of a prequel for today, and I don't know if any of you have seen this.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very Fabienne, and I started reading it yesterday, and it goes into how evolution didn't equip us to see an objective world. It equipped us to get what is useful for survival, right? It's a nice little twist. And it uses the computer metaphor, like when you double click on an email application, what you're seeing is an icon of that. You're not seeing what's going on under the hood. Tor Noretrandas wrote about this in 1991 in The User Illusion. He's in The Future of Text Volume 1. And it's the same basic premise that what we experience isn't any kind of objective reality. And yes, sure, that's fun in a philosophical, having a coffee, talking to people in the evening sort of way, but I'm so glad you're here, Felix, regarding this, because in XR, visually at least, gesturally, embodied-wise, to a large extent, we can reinvent what kind of iconization, what kind of representation of the world is more useful to us, which is phenomenal. So to read the scientific and philosophical backgrounds of that, well, we're actually here building these darn things, is amazing. So on that note, over to Felix.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that's actually that's a really good point. That's also one of the reasons why I'm super invested in this field, is because it's like from the very first time I got into this, which is around I think 2016, where I think the Oculus Rift CV1, that's a long name, came out, and then I got into that immersive world, and like I had the realization that we don't have to conform to the rules that are imposed on us, in this physical world. Like we're not subject to the same physical limitations. We can traverse vast lands, and in a second, and that's always been very fascinating to me, and went on to study HCI specifically in the context of 3D and XR later on at Duke University for master degrees. But a little bit out of order, but yeah, just wanted to really plus one on that point. I think this is really cool, and that's why I'm here. So that's it. Hello, folks. My name is Felix. I am a software engineer at Meta, and thank you very much, Fabian, for pointing this out. I'm here at my own personal capacity. So what I say, my views do not in any way reflect that of Meta's. Yeah, so that's my day job at Meta, doing WebXR stuff. And in my free time, I'm also a indie game developer building on WebXR games. And you will see some of that as part of my presentation later. Some people say I need to get a life, but yeah, so it's I live and breathe WebXR is what I'm trying to get at, and I'm very honored to be here with all of you experts in the field, and yeah, that's about it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Should I go straight into my presentation, or? Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything you would like us to know about the presentation? Do you want to be interrupted or wait for questions till the end and all of that kind of stuff?
Oh, if you have a question, feel free to interrupt me. I guess if you can raise your hand, I can probably like using Zoom, I can very easily see you and pause the presentation. I want it to be a very casual dialogue, so yeah, feel free to interrupt me at any time, or if you feel like the topic is a big one and you want to leave it at the end, totally fine with me as well. Cool. Let me see.
Thank you. Yeah.
Share this stuff. Oh, I apologize. I have to like quit and restart Zoom because it's not like I don't have the permission to share my screen. So just give me a second.
Zoom is frequently like that.
Yeah. Okay. Second, modify settings. quit. So I'll be back in just a second.
So Fabienne, we'll be in Dunkirk from Friday. We'll be invading to be near you.
I was in Guernsey until yesterday or 2 days ago.
Yeah,
So,
the invasion the other way.
yes. With visa required, by the way, now. So that's
Yeah.
a new thing.
Bit messy. Felix, we see you and hear you very well again.
Nice. Give me just a second. Let me figure out which one to share.
Mark, good timing. Felix is just starting.
Can everybody see my screen? Great.
Yes.
Cool. All right. So yeah, I've already introduced myself, and so the topic I wanted to talk about today is going to be the immersive web emulation runtime, which is something I built as part of my job at Meta. Cool. So first of all, a little bit of background on this. Immersive web emulation runtime actually can be traced back. There's a pretty long history here. So from pretty much the very early days of WebXR or WebVR actually, there have been attempts to emulate this on a desktop browser so that developers don't have to get in and out of headsets so frequently. My personal experience with this started with Project Flowerbed. Not sure if folks heard of that, but I'll probably send out a link after the presentation in the chat. It's one of the projects I'm really proud of. At Meta, we did this as a visual showcase for WebXR, which is to show what kind of a graphics bar you can meet with WebXR, like using the latest technology at the time. It was a very long project, and as part of that, we were required to obviously do a lot of testing in headset and out of headset. At the time, the emulation tool that's available to us, I think, was the WebXR emulator that was released by Mozilla Reality, I think, at the time. And it was very cool. I think, you can very easily see the potential there. It has this little view on the side, and it has basic. Oh, by the way, if anybody, I just realized I can probably see raised hands. I see that there are some messages in the chat. I can monitor that. So if anything that requires pausing the presentation, please someone yell it out and let me know.
That's going to be Fabienne. Fabienne's going to be moderating that. So if the hands are going up or comments in the chat, he will let us all know.
Sounds good. Cool. So getting back to this. So you can very easily see the potential there. There's basic headset controls, and there's a little 3D inspector that allows you to move the headset around and stuff. But we quickly ran into limitations during the development of that particular experience because we required access to the full gamepad that's attached to the XR controllers. We needed to use the joystick. We needed to use the A, B, X, Y buttons, and all of that. And that particular emulation software did not allow us to do that, which is how I started building this thing called Immersive Web Emulator. So essentially, what we did was that we took the underlying runtime that was powering the emulation, which is called WebXR Polyfill. I think it was originally built by Brennan Jones from Google. It's a fantastic piece of software that served the whole community very well in early days. So we took that, we rebuilt the extension part and the control interface on top of that. We fixed the runtime, the WebXR Polyfill, by adding in extra support for the newer APIs that we support. For example, hand tracking. For example, some of the AR features that we were shipping at the time. And we shipped this Immersive Web Emulator. Is essentially using the same formula. That's a browser extension that you go to Chrome Extension Store, you install it, and you manually activate it for the experience that you're developing. And you can kind of control the headset, the emulated headset, using this little sidebar that you have on to the right of your experience. Yeah, so we had some success.
Sorry, just I'm interrupting to give you a little perspective, because half of the people here is not not developers. So to give you a little bit of background as a developer in WebXR, what tends to happen is that you code and then you put the headset and nothing works. Like, it's black. And it's super frustrating because when you normally code, I mean, normal developer, not somebody who like everything works. Normal person, you code, it doesn't work. If you're on the desktop, you see the screen, then you see a console message, some error message, you copy paste the error message in your favorite search engine, you get it fixed. You cannot do that in XR. You put the headset on, it doesn't work. You put it back, you change the thing. It's really, really, like, it's physically painful, because then you put it off and then it messes up your hair, and then your ear gets stuck in there, and then you have the headphones because you're listening to music, and it's really horrible experience. And it's not something you normally do as a developer. Normally you have emulators, like if you have a virtual phone, a virtual machine, you have a lot of tooling that prevent you from having to do this. But in XR, as you also mentioned, sometimes you need the hands, sometimes you need the controllers, and because it's spatial, you need the actual device on your head somehow. And if you can't have like some way to optimize this workflow, I know of people who gave up on XR development because of that, because it was so challenging to debug. Again, if you imagine that you develop a thing by just programming and everything works, at least it's not the case for me. I think it's not the case for anyone. It is hard and it's complex. And I'm sorry to take so long to interrupt, but it's especially for non-developers, it sounds very convoluted. Like, why would you have a virtual headset? Why do all this kind of effort? It's because without it, it is so hard. You basically have like a black box that is not comfortable. You don't know why it's not working, and it's so damn frustrating. So that it's just to step back a little bit on why even an emulator, a runtime, all these kind of things that would sound so, I guess, superfluous. I can tell you it's definitely not superfluous. It's absolutely needed. And without it, everything is physically painful, and intellectually, all the time you put the headset on enough, your mind starts to drift about grocery list, about like where is the key, like things that are really horrible intellectually speaking, because you're on a very complex task with like a castle of bricks and whatnot that is super complex, and then back and forth. So yeah, sorry for really going into the pain of it all, but I want to highlight that this kind of work is so important, because without the tooling, you're like blind and without the proper workflow.
Thank you, Fabien, for this. This is a very good context on the things that I'm talking about. I will keep in mind the audience from now on. Yeah, but like to Fabien's point, that's exactly why it's like having to get in and out of headset, because any kind of changes that you're making, you're more realistically going to make those changes on a desktop environment within your code editor, and then the way, without emulation software, you have to get back into the headset to test it out, and if anything breaks, it just crashes and you get headlocked in the headset. You don't see there's no feedback loop there, because you have to get back onto the desktop, like trying a way to connect your headset to your browser to be able to get access to the console, because the headset, you can't see that. You can't see the console errors in headset either right now. So so like it's a huge disruption to your development velocity. Just having emulation, I don't know about Mike, like your mind drifting to grocery shopping, but like it is definitely a huge disruption to your workflow overall. And with emulation software, it doesn't get you 100% of the way. You still have to test things in headset, obviously, but it will, you can work out most of the app logic bugs, while not having to get into headset. And, you can get into headset for more XR related things, for example, rendering artifacts, performance issues, the XR input handling, things like that. So yeah, so it basically just make a developer's day much easier, and with less interruption in the middle. Cool. So we put out this emulator thing, and it was people liked it, and but we also quickly got a lot of feedback from the community that, for example, first of all, like this being in the form of a browser extension, it's kind of limited. A lot of people, especially for folks who are developing WebXR software in a more professional capacity, they want to be able to use this for testing, for example. They wanted to be able to use this to deploy this in a server somewhere using Puppeteer or something like that, and just completely automate a sequence of interactions, and get testing results from that as part of their CI/CD pipeline. Obviously, the browser would be using the extension would be much harder to do that. The other thing is that the WebXR polyfill, although we really love it, it's pretty old at that point. It was built in the WebVR era, and people just keep monkey patching it for newer features. It was built in JavaScript, no type safety there. So it was getting harder and harder to maintain and build upon. That's the other challenge. And so we had the thought of, what if we separate the runtime, the control interface, and the extension in 3 different parts, so that people can pick and choose what they want and build it into their development workflow the way they like. To further expand a little bit on the why modularization matters. The first of all, using WebXR emulation without browser extension is a major use case, like I just mentioned. You can do this in very different ways. You can embed this runtime into your own source code to make it work when you're developing, or it could possibly be integrated at the framework level, and the framework will inject this runtime when you're developing on localhost, for example, and when you're deploying for production. It will rip out this runtime because it's no longer needed for production. So this way, developer don't have to know anything about this. And there is also custom integrations. You can build custom developer tools with it to fit your own needs. Another point of this is, we have flexibility on UI solutions as well. Obviously, we ship a standard control interface that exposes most of the essential controls that you will need in the development process. For example, pressing buttons, move headsets and controllers around, and things like that. All those things are supported, but maybe you're developing something different. Maybe you're developing an app that's mainly using gesture to interact with the virtual world. In which case, all of the gamepad stuff would be irrelevant to you, but you can still use the runtime to actually programmatically define a sequence of motions, you just need a control interface that interface directly with that kind of functionality. So you can build your own UI. You don't have to use our own. You can build your own, and you can make it truly yours as part of your development workflow. And we're hoping, as an overall goal, with the added benefit, with the added flexibility, this will gain broader adoption. Like, for example, getting shipped with particular frameworks, so people just automatically discover this. So that was our goal. Now, moving on to some of the key features of the immersive web emulation runtime. First thing is very basic: 6-degree freedom spatial control for controller nodes. The device nodes, and by saying that, I'm meaning like controller and the headset and emulated hand tracking, which we'll talk about in just a bit. So we would, as you can see in the video, we're able to move around the controllers and headset using and we're able to actually do this in a couple of different ways, as you can see, using the control interface. So in the disengaged mode, you can use kind of like the little gizmo to rotate and move things around. But then there's also this button on the top bar that you can play, that kind of look like a play button that you can click on, that essentially locks your cursor into the canvas And now you can move things around. Now you can like interact with the experience like you're in a 3D PC experience. Yeah, so that's how you move around like the camera. And as you can see, you're also moving around the room. And this is, I have to point out, this is actually not enabled by the experience itself. This is actually mimicking the behavior of like user walking around in their own room. Like, so it's local space movement. As you can see, like the white ring there, that's highlighted as the origin of the XR session. And so yeah, you're just emulating walking away from that as if you're in your own room and walking around. Cool. So moving on to input simulation. This is one of the pain points I called out earlier that was very important to us when we were building a bigger scale WebXR project. Is that very likely that you'll need to tap into the full power of the controllers. There's a bunch of buttons there. And so this is what we did. We hooked up all of the gamepad controls with the control interface, and the things that we're supporting include binary buttons, so A, B, X, Y buttons on the controllers, analog inputs, so trigger and grip, and we have like a fine slider, as you can see in the video, that we can select the particular value that you're going to set it to. And then we also have 2D analog inputs such as joystick and touchpads. As you can see, if I'm, drag that little joystick icon around, you'll see like the actual joystick being rendered in the experience, also moving around with it. And yeah, so we have full control over this. Everything you can do in the headset with the controller, you can do with the emulation software. Next thing on my list is going to be natural hand interaction emulation. This one, admittedly, a little bit harder to crack because it really requires people to understand, required me to understand like how people are mainly using the hands. And I don't think I've done a super good job here yet. I think there's a lot more potential that people can tap into with hand tracking, but mainly today, as it stands, I think like the most popular hand gesture in Axor systems are going to be the pinch gesture, and so we built everything around that. We have a few base hand poses that you can choose from. There's a pointing one. There is a pointing one for like pressing buttons, poking buttons. There is a relaxed hand pose. We also have custom pose support, so you can like capture different poses and load it into the emulation software, so that you can switch to custom hand poses as well. And from each of those hand poses, we provide a mechanism that basically morph your hand gesture into a pinch pose, so you can trigger the pinch events whatever hand pose you happen to be on. And one more thing to call out, like you can move the hands around similarly to how you are moving around controllers. It's going to be rotating, and like the origin of those transform actions is going to be the target rate space. So very much the same with controllers. Moving on, system integration.
Yeah, a quick remark also. I think for the hands, most people, at least I know I did, vastly underestimate how powerful hands are, like human hands. It looks very basic, like 5 fingers, and they move a bit, but the freedom each joint has, and if you start to be like the combination of how each part of the hand can move and touch other part of the hands, you quickly realize it's just combinatorially vast space. And then when you move the hands themselves in space, so when one does see, oh, it's just pinching between the thumb and the index, for example, if you just caress, or you go from the tip of the thumb to the index, and you just go from one part of the finger, I mean, it's so, even just to describe it, I'm struggling to describe it to you with words. There was so much freedom with the ability to move things, and pinching is just one thing. You can touch like the 2 fingertips together. It's honestly mind-boggling. It's surprising how much stuff we can do. So it's not easy. I don't have any suggestion or advice on this point. I just know that when I moved from controllers to hands, it was like, yeah, okay, cool. I have fingers. It's going to be easy. It's not. It's not. There is so I understand that if you were to have a list of all the different pinching fingers, okay, you think, oh, just 10 fingers, but then you can, just describing is too much. So it's don't be surprised, or if people want to start to play with the tracking of hands and the different motions, it's surprisingly flexible and thus fast and thus challenging to handle.
That's very good points. Yeah, that's exactly why I feel like we haven't done a super good job here yet. And that's not because we're lazy. I think it's more because like we're still waiting to see how people are actually going to interact with this particular feature, and what kind of things people are going to be using for this. To expand just a little more on this, the runtime actually supports the full control over every single joints of your hands. So you can do a lot of different things with this. Like the pinch and different kind of hand pose thing, it's more a limitation on the control interface side, because I don't know what kind of things people want to do with their hands. So there's a limitation there. But one of my hopes is that we can see external developers take a look at, hey, maybe I want to do a gesture-based thing, and then we can learn from those experiences and build that into the emulation runtime eventually.
And quick follow-up on this. There's been recently a demo, I think maybe a month ago, from one of your colleagues at Meta, responsible for the browser. I think I forgot the name, sorry. But
Rick,
on
I guess.
micro gestures.
Rick Cabanier?
Yes, probably. Yeah, surely Rick. And is our micro gestures supported?
Micro gestures are currently not supported, but yeah, that's a very good point. I think micro gestures are in a interesting spot right now because it's the detection of micro gesture is actually done by the system. There is a pretty complicated setup there. So like if we're actually trying to do this as part of the emulation runtime, there's some challenges there that needs to be overcome. And secondly, unfortunately, microgesture is only supported right now by Meta devices, I think, and it's not a standard in the WebExer device API. Like the way by not a standard, I mean like this is basically we just surface this as additional controls in the gamepad object that's associated with hand tracking XR input sources, instead of like specifically have like a micro gesture spec that people can reliably use across different devices. But yeah, that's definitely a point we will be following up on. Yeah, I think like micro gestures are for folks who have access to a Meta Quest device. I highly suggest you try it out. I think it's very interesting. It opens up a lot of different possibility for you to interact with. Like I think mostly I would say like the to me personally, I think it's going to optimize the way that people interact with UI panels, surfaces with like mostly flat surfaces like browsing activity. It would be a huge boost in people's productivity in terms of those activities. Kind of a tangent there, but yeah, I saw someone else had their hands up. I didn't catch who.
Yeah, I had my hand up, but Fabian actually raised the exact question that I had in my mind about micro gestures, because we had previously, I think, 1 or 2 sessions back also talked about micro gestures. So yeah, thank you, Fabian.
Nice. Cool. Yeah, so that's a very good point we'll follow up on.
Yeah, and sorry, I think Peter and Mark have some questions in the chat. Maybe Peter also had a question a bit earlier as well. So maybe if you want to address that, it's about, I think Peter's question is about if you can get an event stream representation of the different hand movements or the different joints data. Do you want to take that, Felix?
Yeah. Let me just quickly catch up on that. It's in chat, right? Okay, let me see. Uh, it's a long conversation. Actually, is that a question from Peter? Peter, do you mind just like quickly like tell me the question and we can have a quick dialogue about that?
Okay. I was wondering, first of all, whether you can save and name hand position presets, and then I was asking if you can get a textual event stream representation of what's happening in the emulator. So sort of a timestamp and a delta of what's changed in the controller since the last time, or an interval since the last event, plus a state delta.
Right. We can like I mean like it's technically feasible, but that's not what's happening right now. I guess I would be interested to understand like the use cases that you're imagining with that particular feature with like a event stream and you know everything that's changed. What are you thinking to use those for?
Well, I'm imagining running a parser against them and trying to recognize patterns and events.
That's
So I could like write a peg grammar that would be looking at that event stream and be able to extract useful features from it.
I see. Yeah, that's a very interesting use case. But I would argue that for that particular use case, you probably don't want to run it in the emulation runtime. So also a little bit of a tangent from this. As part of the runtime, we also have because we wanted to like we understand that you know to emulate these kind of hand motions are difficult. So we have another feature that is basically action recording and playback. And action recording is a smaller package that you can basically drop into any WebXR experience, and it will capture everything from that session. Like exactly what you said, you know, controller motions, hand individual joints motions, and what kind of events are being triggered at what point with timestamp and everything. And that's going to yield a JSON file that basically contains the entire like timeline of things. We're not using that particular timeline to do anything fancy like you said, but we're using that to play back the action later in a emulation environment. But I guess you can totally just run a parser on that and just you know analyze the pattern from that particular standpoint as well. So yeah, I think that I'll send a link to the particular feature I'm talking about after the presentation, but that's a really good point. I think we can already support that.
Excellent. Oh, and if we'd have a copy of your slide deck too at the end, it'd be great.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm happy to send it out afterwards. Cool. All right. If nothing else, I will move on. So the next part, this is another big pain point for developers for WebXR. It's kind of interesting in this particular thing. Like we never saw this before the emulation, like we released the immersive web emulator. I think it's because like we provided such like a it's kind of like a full-featured emulation software as part of like the immersive web emulator. People grew more reliant on it, and people are getting into headset less and less during the development process, which is good, which is our initial goal. But also, like our like ideal bubble for this emulation setup doesn't, you know, is free from a lot of interruptions that can happen when people are actually using headsets. For example, you know, maybe your headset run out of battery, and then or your app crashes, or you force quit the browser when you're using WebXR, and maybe your controller run out of battery, or maybe when you're using hand tracking, one of your hands or both of your hands lose tracking. So we're seeing a lot of WebXR experience not handling those edge cases clearly, not handling those edge cases elegantly, because they are mainly spending their time in the emulated environment. So this is one of the things that we aim to address with this particular runtime as well. One of the Peter, do you think we should? Do you want to ask the question now, or should I finish the slide and we can talk about that?
Okay, finish the slide first, I guess.
Cool. Sounds good. So yeah, the first integration system level integration feature I have here is offer session support. So this is less of a development pitfall in WebXR development process, but more of an extra feature. So offer session basically allow you to have the WebXR experience declare, hey, I am ready to start a WebXR session. And if you wanted to have an external control as part of the browser, for example, to display like an Enter XR button on top of the browser, you can. And this is a feature that's not super widely supported at this point, but MetaQuest, the browser in MetaQuest devices does support for that. So with this, we solved it using a overlay button that's injected into the app with the runtime so that you can test this feature. And then the next four are going to be development pitfalls. For example, the first one, exit XR. This is one of the core scenarios that we're expecting developers to really gracefully handling. Like whatever needs to be cleaned up needs to be cleaned up. Like you can't crash upon exit XR. And when there's a situation where you care about how the 2D landing page looks after you quit XR, this is also a very ideal feature for you to test that. Another thing is visibility states. This is not shown in the video, but visibility state is also an interesting topic. So when you're actually in WebXR, like fully interacting with the experience, you're in a visibility state called visible. And then if you press, like this is different like from different kind of implementation on different platforms, but on Meta's platform, if you press the Meta button, it brings up system UI while not dismissing the WebXR experience in the background. So this is called visible blurred. And what's special about this visibility state is that your XR input sources are taken away because they're focused back on the system UI layer, and you basically your XR input sources are gone, but you are still effectively in immersive VR or AR experiences. So that's another point where developers need to pay attention to handle this kind of situations gracefully. A third thing is input states. So this is easier to understand. Like we have controllers go out of battery or handle like lose tracking. So we added the feature to enable you to manually disconnect and reconnect hands or controller and all these kind of input sources, so you can test for these situations. And the final one is input mode switching. So you can like very easily switch between hands and controllers using the control interface on the emulation runtime. Yeah, and that's it. Peter, ready for your question now.
Okay, I was wondering if you have any support for the 3D Connection Space Mouse. It'd be really nice if in the emulator, if my cursor was on top of one of the controllers, the Space Mouse would then let me manipulate that controller in 3D. And if my cursor was over the right hand, the Space Mouse's input would be temporarily bound to the right controller. Or if I wasn't over any one of the controllers, it would be controlling my overall avatar's position in the world. So I think that'd be really elegant. So basically, see what object in the virtual environment your cursor is over, and then redirect the Space Mouse control to that element.
That's a very cool. That's a very interesting use case. I think we support all of those features, but in a slightly different way. I guess it's not hardware based right now, so you have to like click on one particular controller, and you have all of the gamepad controls like expanded there as a UI panel, so you can do those things there. But it's not hover based, and if you want to control your avatar inside the immersive experience, you do. There's a thing on the top left corner that's controlling basically your player rig inside your local space, so you can do that, or you can press the play button and be in this basically engaged mode where you can use like keyboard shortcuts like WASD to move around the scene and use like so we have button mapping for all of the controller actions. For example, my controller left click is mapped to like the trigger pull on the right controller, and these are all customizable as well. But Peter, if you think that's like you would like to see something like what you have described, we also have the freedom to do that because these are all what the things that we're talking about here doesn't actually touch the runtime. It's all the control interface. So it's possible to be built that way for sure. Does that answer your question? I guess.
Yep. Oh, looks absolutely beautiful.
Thank you. Cool. Moving on, and oh, this is one of my favorite. So advanced AR and MR features. I don't think we have enough of those developers in the world right now to do this, and I think part of the reason is because it's just so hard. I think first of all, like we still don't have a perfect grip on what the good level of API would be. Like, you know, like I think our API right now, we offer plane detection, we offer mesh detection, we have hit testing and all of these things, but it's still hard for developers or for a web app to be able to process that information and do things that just like make sense for the user. For example, like, I mean, if you're talking about like an e-commerce experience and I'm shopping for a shoe, for example, I don't really want to know where all my planes are or my meshes are in my room. I just needed to be able to find a place to put my product offering and the the UI panel with all the text and stuff in a way to situate that into my physical world in a way that it doesn't conflict with my physical world, right? It doesn't clip into my walls and stuff like that. But it's still, I think there's still a huge gap in terms of like how framework are enabling these kind of situations. And like I feel like if we're just talking about planes and mesh raw data, it's not enough, and it's a lot of legwork for developers to actually go chase down. I think that's one of the reason, and the other reason is that emulation for MR and AR environments are super difficult. It's also not a solved problem yet, but I hope like what we have done here is a step in the right direction. So we had actually tried this earlier in Immersive Web Emulator. What we have done there is basically have a little bit of have a small, I guess, like an editing studio solution there that basically you can create your own room. Like, say, I need a ceiling. I can define a room dimension. I can put some cubes in there, and that's like I'm pretending that's my desk and pretending that's my monitor on top of that. You can do things with that. It's a very convoluted process to set something up, and it's even harder if you want it to actually resemble a room in real life. And also, like the things that you create in there, not necessarily don't necessarily behave the same way. Like as if you're getting those meshes set up by the headset in when you're actually using the headset. So basically, we went a different approach. We went a different route when we were building this runtime. Instead of creating something from scratch, we thought, hey, why don't we just we just capture something in a real WebXR environment and then bring it over to desktop emulation setup. And this is exactly what we did. What you're seeing in the video is basically a very small meeting room that I had captured, and it had captured the detailed mesh environment of the room, plus all of the planes and meshes in the information. And you can see I'm toggling some of these on and off, and now like I toggled on the bounding boxes, so you can see all of those different things. And this has enabled us obviously to provide you directly with the plane detection and mesh detection, essentially as a pass-through. Like we're not making those up. We're just like serving those from a captured session. We're also able to do hit testing with this because hit testing basically depends on the detailed room mesh, and we now have that, so we can do very easy the hit testing. And obviously, like anchors and all of those things, they are not affected by this, and they still work the same way they do. Yeah, but like as you can see, like the ducks are a good example of the hit testing solution. I'm just like using the hit testing to place the ducks in different places around the room. And yeah, so final point on this, we support, there's a list of like 6 or something rooms that are pre-captured We're still working on a solution that like a open source WebXR enabled solution for people to easily capture their own room and bring it into the runtime, but it will be available at some point. Moving on. Oh yeah, so that concludes basically all the key features that I wanted to touch on, and moving on to core use cases. This will be quick. So the first one, you have been seeing this for the whole time. This is one of the ideal outcome of this, effort of separating the runtime from the extension from the controller interface, because we wanted to enable framework to integrate this at in their like specific build environment. I think like frameworks that people use can be very opinionated on how the build process is going to be, and React 3 XR is a very good example of this. So what they had done is basically integrate IWare, or Immersive Web Emulation Runtime, as part of the package, and it does this very smart thing where if it's detecting that you're hosting on localhost, that means you're probably doing development, and it will automatically inject this runtime into your experience, and you can just like get started with development in no time. Obviously, it also depends on whether you have native WebXR support or not. If you have native WebXR support and you're still using it on localhost, it doesn't take over. It doesn't override the native WebXR support. This also, but like in the process of building for production and deploying for production, this is automatically excluded, so you don't have to, it doesn't add on to your bundle size when you're actually deploying this for production. Yeah, so that's one of the first use cases, basically allow you to have a more customized and more seamless development experience. The second one, and this is, I'm personally very excited for this because I added this to my game. This is the video you're seeing is my game. It's a first-person shooter experience with a single player and multiplayer mode. And what you're seeing here is basically just like a PC kind of like first-person shooter kind of interaction. But the interesting thing here is that this game was first built for WebXR, and then we added PC control to it. And how we did that is that we're tricking the experience into thinking that it's still running in WebXR. And how we did that was basically injecting the emulation runtime on top of that, and then do button mapping, control mapping. Like so, for example, like firing the pistol, you would be pulling the trigger. And how would we do that on a desktop standpoint? It was that we do like mouse left click, and so it's just a matter of mapping the mouse left click to the controller trigger pull, so that we can reuse the entire XR interaction stack and just maintain like a mapping layer on top of that. And because this emulation runtime is very lightweight, the added overhead is negligible in this case. So yeah, so this is another feature I really think it's kind of interesting, kind of cool, that people can use to bring like cross-platform compatibility to their WebXR experiences. Yeah, and I really I wish to see more people adopting this kind of feature. I think it's really cool. The final one would be testing, automated testing, and I have to thank Fabian for this video directly come from Fabian. I'm not sure if this is the same experience, the same link that Fabian had just shared in the chat, but this is like a really cool example of automated testing. So I believe this is you've programmatically defined the entire motion for grabbing something and then dropping something elsewhere, and then that got confirmation. And so as a result, we're seeing this thing running fully automated without any kind of intervention from a human in the loop. And I think this has a lot of potential, especially for more serious application of WebXR. You need to be able to rigorously test these interactions before releasing it to the public. And the fact that you can decouple this from an actual headset, run it in a scalable environment such as a browser, maybe in headless mode, and be able to still run all of these interactions and get results from it, I think will be really important for the future of WebXR. And so thanks again, Fabian, for showing us the potential of this use case. Really excited for that. Again, a quick plug to the action recording and playback feature. Initially when I developed this feature, I was thinking, hey, programmatically define all of these things would definitely be a use case, but I feel like an easier way to do this would be to actually go inside the headset to capture a sequence of interactions and then play it back directly from the JSON file. And so you can also use that to implement this particular sequence of events as well. Obviously, I think programmatically defining all of these interactions have a dynamic element to it. For example, where you are could be dependent on where certain elements are situated in the scene, and you have more flexibility to cater to those kind of situations. But yeah, regardless, very, very exciting to see all of these development using this feature.
Two few notes there. One is a question first. Can you replay faster?
I don't think it's currently supported, but it's technically possible for sure. Just wonder, what are you imagining with that?
One of the example in the video that you're sharing right now, this is, I think, like normal speed, and then there is like 10x or 5x. There is something to run a little bit faster. So that's one of the, let's say, benefits of doing it programmatically. But I guess with a bit of maybe replaying also would work this way. I'm not sure. It could.
I think that's definitely something we can explore. My reservation there is that if you play back this thing faster than it was captured, it's not always guaranteed to work, because there is you don't know, in applications there could be things that's timing sensitive, that if there is a timeout that's you are not speeding up the execution speed of the experience, then there might be something there. But yeah, I can see the appeal of that particular feature.
Mm-hmm. And on the it's also to step back a little bit for non-professional developers in the audience is one thing all of us have sadly experienced is you have a perfectly working piece of software, and then you receive an update where you assume, hopeful as we all are, that is going to keep on work maybe even better than last time or before the update. And somehow the update, which was about, I don't know, fixing the background color of the browser, somehow it breaks your email, things that seems totally unrelated. So it's an example itself, a regression, a bug that was hidden in the code months ago, years ago, somehow comes back. So that's why in terms of when the code becomes very complex, when there is a lot of things that are intertwined, that's where testing is really, really powerful. And if you don't do it, again, as a developer, it's you're going to pull your hair out, because it's really, really complex. So if you can have a set of tests, like the CI/CD that you mentioned initially, an example like Puppeteer, that means your complex software can keep on being reliable despite a lot of changes. It is again a safety net. And if I don't like testing, because I'm too naive and hopeful, I'd rather stuff keep on working. But when you have when it really become complex and the architecture is flexible, then at some point you have to be able to run tests to make sure that whatever you developed a year ago or 6 months ago, maybe someone else developed that part of the code base and they've made different assumptions. If you don't have tests to run and you need to manually do it, it's very painful. So again, it's I step back just a bit to show the value of this kind of tooling, and replayability is you need this kind of solutions in order to make sure that your software is basically keeps on being usable. So yeah, it's really important. And if yeah, it's something that it's a little bit like maintenance or cleaning up your house. You might not like it, but if you don't do it, you're going to run into problem for sure.
100%.
I have a question for both Felix and Fabien, and it's a very, very basic question. So we've just looked at how Fabien's environment can be tested in this environment. How? I mean, do we open up something, Felix, on your website, so to speak, and then paste in Fabien's URL? Or what is the actual process for us, end users, designers, not the people doing the coding? I would really like to learn that so that it puts it into a very real place for us.
Fabien, do you want to share your experience setting this up first? And I can give
Yes, sure. Actually, one of the things that I enjoyed with your setup, Felix, is that I used the Mozilla extension way back when. Indeed, that was the only one existing, so that was pretty straightforward. WebVR, forgot the actual name then, but anyway, you shared it. That was pretty convenient. It wasn't nowhere near as flexible, but it kind of worked. But that was indeed assuming that the extension was installed. And if I share it with Peter, Rob, Mark, maybe they have the extension, maybe not. Maybe they use Safari or a custom browser that doesn't support it or whatever. And here, with this work, what you can do is basically, I'm making a shortcut, but put the extension inside the web page. It's basically making as you said, the web page believe somehow that WebXR is supported. So I put a link in the chat, but basically if you open this in your browser and you don't have the extension installed, it probably will not work, but you can refresh it. And at some point, what you should see is the hands, just like in the video. And normally that's not possible. Normally you don't see this. Yeah.
I think you're running ahead of people like me. Is what you just said that you, as the coder, will need to put Felix's extension into your work?
Yes, which is what I did.
Okay, so it means that, for instance, I, as a user, could not say, I want to test person A's environment inside Felix's work. It has to be from the coder, is that right?
Well, you could still use the extension without. I mean, my goal there by using the framework is basically to make you be able to experience testing, to see what the tests are, and to have a way that is not the video but the code itself run on your machine, so that you can verify, you can tinker with it in the console if you want to. If you want to have like literally zero interaction, honestly, watching the video of it working is enough. So it's kind of in between having the real experience in the headset, which should work, or having the video if you don't have the headset. So here it's kind of you have a virtual headset to newly try the thing. That's the goal there. And if you look at the URL that I shared in the chat, you can see so there is two parameters. One is like, what do you actually want to test? Let's say volumetric frames in that example. And the other is like emulate XR. So it's basically to activate the emulation setup, bring the virtual hands in. So the idea is to be very pragmatic for you. It's not super helpful because you already have actually multiple headsets. So if you can, it's better to just have the full-on experience. If you don't have the headset, or you're like on the go and there is no video available, or you don't trust that the video is real, then that would be the best usage.
So that was very useful. And then we get on to the second question. For instance, in our particular work together, on the website that we have, in order for me to allow visitors to access it through their headset or through this emulator, we need two separate links. It's that simple, right?
You don't need, well, I mean, here the parameter in the URL lets you decide. So here I gave an example where
But it's not
emulator is
different. It does when I click on that link. Sorry, Fabian. When I click on that link, it doesn't give me those kinds of controls. It shows the hands, but I don't get any controls.
No, you don't. In my example, I don't give you control. You just play the testing suite. You just see it happen in front of your eyes. Like I said, a bit like a video. If you want the control, it would be something else, which I haven't done. Because also, to be honest, I wanted to be a little bit less, not optimistic, but I'm not sure how to put it, that you still want the spatial experience. Testing without the headset can only bring you so far. At some point, you want to be in there. You want to have a sense of space and some interaction. So it will never, in my opinion, it will never be enough. Basically, it's more like a step in the development process, in the discussion, in the collaboration. But at some point, it has to be properly sixed off and volumetric.
That was very useful because it answers many questions, such as the work that we're doing at the end of it. We really do need people to put on a headset in addition to watch videos that we've made. For them to be using this is more for testing rather than experience. So that's very useful.
A quick note, and I promise I'll stop there, but it is always a tension I have. Like even screen sharing a WebXR or an XR experience, I don't like it. It's like talking about pizza. Yeah, it's not entirely pointless, and yet it's kind of giving a false sense of conveying the message. You need to try the thing. You need to be in the headset at some point, even if it's just for like literally seconds. But otherwise, you assume you get it, and then yeah, it's not correct. So the video, or here automated testing, or here being able to replay test in the browser of the person is always to kind of try to bring it closer and help all of us basically, but it's still not the thing. So I don't know. I think a video is less bad than nothing at all. And yet, if you make people believe they understand, even though they don't, it's also a failure. But I don't know how to do better.
I can share some of my perspective. I think I don't fully agree everything was said just now. I think like first of all, like automated testing is a separate subject from like saying, hey, like here's a WebXR experience, and if you wanted to share with someone else to test it out inside their browser, they absolutely can. So let me give you an example. Like I think like the automated testing work that Fabian has done is very custom, and that part for that particular part. Right now, this is very much of a developer-focused workflow. So yeah, you would require some like the participation of the developer to actually present something that's testable by other people. But if it's just a regular WebXR, you're not talking about like automated testing. Manual testing, everybody can do it. For example, let's see, I don't know, like let's find any of the Three.js examples here for VR, for example. I think yeah, this one is a good example. I would say right now you can see that VR not supported because the runtime hasn't been injected, and this can be done on everybody's laptop if you have the extension. So when I click on this, it will basically refresh the page and have already injected this the runtime into the page. And now when I do enter XR, all of the controls that I already have, it will be already here. So I just shrink the page a little bit so that we can see this better. But yeah, like this is what we have, and you can very easily, like take control and do different kind of things and move around and all of that. This requires no access to the source code this require no source code access to the experience you want to test. Any kind of public WebXR experience, you can do this. And as I think another point that was discussed just now is like, hey, what do you want to present to the user? Maybe you want to force them to go into XR to actually test it out. Maybe like this is not something for every person to test out. And I think that's a totally valid point. I think it depends on what you are trying to show. And it's a whole spectrum, in my opinion. For example, this is one example, very raw, like you have all of the controls, but you can also deliver a more curated interaction experience to developers, to people using the runtime. That doesn't have all of these controls, so that very much limits what you can do to certain things. And a very good example would be the game, right? Like, so this is as well an example of using the runtime to deliver something to people via just their desktop browsers. But the things that you can do are limited to the things I'm allowing you to do. For example, there is no emulation. There's no emulation control interface. What you can do, for example, like click on this the mouse will allow you to trigger certain things. So I think it's a whole spectrum of things. Like, depends on what you are actually trying to deliver. When it comes to like actual like interaction with the pinch and all of that, like what Fabian's saying, I think that's definitely something that you have to be in XR to get an accurate view of. You can emulate those using the extension, but you're not going to be able to really understand what is actually going on until you get into XR. And that's what I wanted to say. Actually, this is the last page. So thank you very much. And we should open up the floor for any questions and discussion.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Randall, you have something?
Hey, Felix. This is really cool. One of the things that I would sort of characterize this as is continuity between experiences. Not to say that you get the same experience, but that there is a way to understand things in the same way that, before responsive web design, we had websites that were best viewed at 1024 by 768, and in order to run things on iPhone 1, they needed to be ungodly small because of how few pixels there were there. I think the goal is not to have the same experience, because the experience that's best is the one that's tailored to the system, but to have some level of continuity between what can kind of be seen and experienced, so that you at least know what will be happening on that other platform. So I think that's neat, and it's something that I'm trying to strive for in the context of building the immersive web with model element and web page environments and stuff. So I think that there's really scope for being able to do this. Felix, have you ever played with using webcam-based head or hand tracking as well as a method for trying to derive greater continuity as well?
For in the context of like emulating hands,
and head gaze as well, like being able to move head pose with heads and things like that.
I haven't tried it in the context of head tracking, but I have tried it one time with like a camera, like a webcam based hand tracking thing. I think it was pretty cool, but there is I think like there is a lot of work to be done to like actually map the joint orientation in a way that it will work with the WebXR spec. So unfortunately, we didn't have enough resource to chase down that lead, but I think that's I think that's a very promising thing to be doing, for sure.
Interesting. Is there anything you think? So, if it's the spec that's the issue, I mean, it would be really interesting to see what the data is like, and if there's any way we could push on both sides at once, because it would be pretty useful for folks with webcams to be able to use hand tracking, right? I'd be interested in if Rick knows about it, and whether there's anything we can do there to kind of pull them together. Because like having hand tracking in web would be a pretty cool thing for people to have a reasonable kind of channel to make use of, because you can use it, like you said, like through the webcam, but without there being a relatively standard API, then there's a limited sort of set of things that people would be able to imagine doing with it. So that's cool to hear, and I'm glad. I think I'll keep playing with that.
I don't think it's actually I think that's a really good point. I don't think it's actually a matter of a problem with the spec. I think it's just like it's actually really doable. I think it just takes some time, and it's probably tedious work for people to figure out the mapping between. It also depends on what kind of a webcam hand tracking solution that you're using, and it's just the matter of finding the correct mapping for like joint. There is probably an offset that we have to like like tediously like figure out and apply to every single joint so that the thing that is being returned actually works with the hand tracking API, and the hand model is going to be able to be rendered correctly. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think if there is enough interest in this, I think like yeah, it's very doable work for sure. And I totally agree with you. I think it would be very useful for like most hand-based interactions, hand-based WebExer experiences to be built.
Definitely. Cool. Thank you.
Are the demos still available anywhere? I tried those glitch links and they just bring up an error page saying a glitch has stopped project hosting.
Yeah, Glitch
Glitch
is
is
shut
dead.
down right now. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Which is this a question for Fabian, or what examples are you referring to?
Oh, well, I was on the Immersive WebXR emulation runtime
Uh,
getting started page and it said try it live on Glitch, 3JS, Babylon, and A-Frame. And the links just bring up the Glitch error page that they're not hosting anymore.
Yeah, so yeah, we need to we need to update those, unfortunately. But you can see something interesting here that is a quick example of like the action recording and playback thing. For example, so this one has, it says no native WebExer support detected. So this has already injected the runtime there. So when you click on this is an example of a custom control that you can slap onto the runtime. And here, if I wanted to show you like input recording being played back, just click on this and close controls. And this, I'm not doing anything. This is completely being played back from a previously captured input session on a real headset. And yeah, I switched hands right there and pressing on all of those red cubes. And yeah. But thanks for flagging the glitch one. I'm very sad that glitch shut down, by the way. We'll have to find a new hosting solution for that. But yeah. Cool. Whoever is next for the questions.
Yeah, I could go next. It's actually kind of continuing the conversation that Brendel brought up, right, about maybe mapping webcam hand tracking and head tracking. So recently I was exploring MediaPipe for tracking the head and the hands. And I think MediaPipe has an interesting output. It has 21 points that it outputs for different points on the hand. Whereas I think WebXR standard is for 25 points, if I remember correctly. So as Felix said, probably it requires some sort of tedious mapping in some way. But I think some people in the community might have seen people who have successfully mapped maybe like the MediaPipe output to 3JS hands and then showing the output in 3D. But yeah, it could be interesting to maybe record those movements and use that in the Ivor directly for testing itself.
Definitely, yeah. Would love to have time to look into this, but yeah, definitely on my to-do list. We'll come back to this at some point.
So we're running out of time. This is wonderful, and I have a aspect of this that I'd like to talk about, and so on. And that is when Brandel kind of mentioned, where are you, Brandel? You are there. There you are. That it's kind of a halfway point or something like that between interactions. I think that is extremely useful because one of the things that we are working on now is how to create an interaction language in XR for the kind of work we want our users to do with academic workflow. And there are so many questions on that. One of them is the question of where an interaction should be. Let's say that you have a few knowledge objects, whatever it is, in front of you, and you want to change the layout. Should that be something that you grab kind of a mother object or one of these objects? Or should that somehow be selected and the interaction is in your hand? Should the interaction be in a HUD, basically your face, or should it be in the space? So the correct feeling of where it should be, it looks like the approach of what you're doing here can help us map out where it's natural. Because in the physical world, if you want to change the knob on your car radio, Obviously, you can use speech now in many cars, but you go to where the controller is. What we have is the control can go to you. And it's easy to have a blanket answer to that, but I'm finding it very, very complicated to find a coherent answer for multitudes of interactions. So I'm going to be thinking very much about what I have seen today in terms of, it's kind of a fantasy to see your XR game being made in XR, and then you do this trick, as it were, and it's available in legacy situations. That is exactly analogous to what we're doing in the community. We want to be able to build incredible academic knowledge visualizations and then allow, through various means, JSON, blah, 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 legacy to have access to it as richly as possible. So I want to thank you for that. And also, you put a large chunk of yourself into my brain for the next week or two. I wonder if you have any comments on that side of it. If
I'm
that
very
makes any
flattered.
sense.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense, and there are, I think like for this kind of purpose of like bringing backward compatibility to older surfaces as we evolve into the next, I think this is very, very interesting. But I would also caution that when designing these kind of interactions, I think a lot of this process still needs to happen in headset. For example, like the point you're bringing up with the HUD.
It's
Like,
1 o'clock.
I'll be quick. So I think like a good example that you're
Felix,
bringing up.
no need to rush. No need to rush. It's fine going over a little bit.
I actually have to jump in 5 minutes, but So the quick point I wanted to bring here is that, like, for example, the HUD is a very interesting example of things not working out exactly as what you want. Like if you're designing this for like a 2D surface, I think like having HUD, especially in game situations, very common that you have these things that's just like attached to your screen space, but these things don't actually work that well when you're in XR. Like sometimes it can get quite annoying, and it really needs to be designed according. If you really want something that's attached to your camera, basically, you need to take into consideration about like your field of view and all of that, so that they're visible, but they're not like annoyingly in your face. And there are also other things such as like, are they stiffly there, or are they like, do they kind of have a smooth follow kind of situation? I think unfortunately those things still have to be. You really have to be in XR to get a really good feel of that. Just a thing I wanted to caution.
Oh, fully agree. On so many levels, could spend half an hour saying how much I agree on that. But there's another interesting notion of that is, so I'm a gamer. I do traditional AAA titles, run around, shoot, Battlefield, whatever. And what is kind of relevant, I've noticed, is that when I play, even on a huge screen, I can do my joystick and I move, I have no problem, because the periphery is real life and it doesn't move. When I've tried the Sony VR with the same thing, I get queasy quite quickly. So I think just like Brandl's model element, which is kind of, it does many things, but one of the things is you have a flat page, but there's a 3D element that goes into it. If we can look at what you're working on, Felix, and provide a virtual 3D monitor in XR space, so you have all the knowledge or games or whatever it is, but the rest is fake, real, right? What I mean is it could be AR, but it doesn't have to be. It can be a pretend room, but as you move, that doesn't move. I think that, and then you go to the next level of looking at traditional games. Games have been AR for decades. They look like they're real, but they have all kinds of overlays. I don't think we're learning enough from that, because it may teach us a little bit about where should the information be, on an object or not? Should it be in us or there? So again, lots of things to think about. And in closing, Felix, thank you again, and thank you, Fabienne, for the introduction. Perfection. Felix, these Monday meetings are incredibly casual, passionate people. If you can join us again in the future, you're extremely grateful. I mean, we would be grateful to see you, and you're very welcome. But please also note, if you're late, nobody cares. right? We all have other responsibilities. There's nothing formal. If you have to leave early, just say bye in the chat. Nobody expects anyone to stay for the whole thing. But there will be continual Monday meetings. You're all very welcome. And if there's someone else you would like to introduce to us, no need to talk to us about it first. We are very happy to be introduced on the day. Any other final words? Maybe some words of wisdom? We need some of those? No? All right.
Well, thank you very much for having me. And I already have one person that I feel like would be perfect for this group. Is working on, I don't know, people might know him, Bila Belander. He's working on a lot of the UI stuff related in, especially in the spatial computing context. And I would love to. I will definitely bring this up with him. And if he's interested, I think. I'm very inspired by his work. I think, yeah, people will find this interesting here as well. So yeah, again, thank you very much for having me. I will definitely be coming back. And it's my honor to meet everybody here. Yeah. Thank you.
That's great. Please do send details of this to him. And please also note that, of course, the meeting today is recorded. It's going to be uploaded. It's going to be put on the website as a summary. Ashkant presented recently, and he had a look at the summary, came back to me with all kinds of changes, which is phenomenal. You don't have to do that, but he did, just to get the record better, because over time, this will be part of the Future of Text book. It'll be not only on the web, it'll remain there, but we're trying to build a record for people in 50 years or so, looking back at the early days of this and all kinds of thinking that didn't materialize. Of course, some of it will, but hopefully will be a bit of a treasure trove for, oh, we should have thought of that. So on that, have a good week, everyone. Bye.
Have a great week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care, guys.